Life is a winding road, no telling where it goes. Driving through days and nights, won't stop for traffic lights. And I really wanna know, really wanna know.
Well, it's deja vu, guys. As you might have seen in some of our earlier episode, we had a problem with the furling drum on our in-furling main where all the bearings came out. Now, ZSpars was really awesome. They sent out the parts and it was all a new furling drum was reinstalled with new bearings. So that was in Ibiza about 4 months ago now. But we've only done Ibiza, Formentera and Majorca sailing, so we've hardly even sailed. And we're just back here. I was just having a look, inspecting everything, and I just looked in here and all of the bearings have come out again. So I'm going to have to get on the horn to ZSpars and find out what's going on, because, you know, the last time we'd at least sailed across the Atlantic, we put a lot of miles on it. This time we've probably done 300 miles of sailing tops. So yeah, I don't know what's going on. Need to find out what's up. But we're going to make sure we take you through the whole process this time, because last time we didn't document it very well. So stay tuned. I'm so pissed off about that.
I'll never figure out where the road goes.
With a beautiful morning, we decide to get up and make breakfast. Meanwhile, Red sneaks into our bed. With a big day of boat projects ahead, we decide to take him for a long walk before we get started.
You got ice like summer sky. If you're smart, could kill or die. And now it starts to rain, so let's enjoy it. I can't believe that this is real, and the way you make me feel, you make me wanna see.
It's already like, oh no. Oh, he's walking normal though. Look at this doggy dog. Relaxing. Meanwhile, James eating.
Pistachios.
Are they good?
Yeah, we very rarely ever have pistachios because they're so darn expensive. But these are awesome. They're from California, I think, aren't they?
Yeah.
As you guys might have remembered last week, we were talking about changing our furling line because it's chafing pretty bad in a few spots. So we didn't do it at the time because we were a bit lazy, because we actually have to take apart the furling drum to remove the line. So we're going to try taking it apart now. I don't really know how to do it, but it looks pretty straightforward. So just don't know whether I have to take this cage off. So let's see. Nice. Is that the rope, hon?
Yeah.
I'll be by your side, and when I do get to see your smile, I'm up in the clouds and now we're apart. It will take a little longer to get you off my mind tonight. When the sky is cloudy, we just climb right in. You are all I want more than everything. Feels just like I'm flying when I'm here with you. I was standing waiting just for you.
There you go. Furling drum's back together. So we bought a furling line, didn't we?
We bought a furling line in Decathlon, and it was really, really cheap, but we got an 8mm. Ours, when we got here, it looks like a 10mm, and that's been working just fine, so we need to exchange it and see if we can get the 10mm. Not sure though if it's long enough, that's the only thing.
Yeah.
Because this one, it needs to be at least 25 meters, and I think that the longest they had was 20 meters, so we'll see.
Off the ground. Alright, another thing that we need to work on is, I think we mentioned it way back in some of our earlier episodes, is we have some corrosion developing on the between the actual glass of the touchscreen and the chart plotter, which is really odd. I haven't really seen it anywhere else, and it's basically encroaching across the image, which is rubbish because the unit's 10 months old. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the chart plotter out and have a little look, maybe ourselves first, see if there's anything we can do. If we can't, then we're going to have to give it to Raymarine and see what they're going to do. So, but it's definitely something we need to change because we have a lot of miles coming up and it's getting pretty bad, isn't it, Nat?
Yeah.
Pretty unhappy considering the unit's only 10 months old. So here's where we have some of the corrosion, as you can see. Here's particularly bad. It's all the way out to about here, and it's developing all around here. Before we only had just a tiny little bit there, and as you can see, it's just been getting worse and worse and worse, which is really strange because it's just below the touch glass, and it actually, you can't touch in those areas. So and we've been really good with the unit. We haven't been hard on it or anything, so this is really disappointing. Well, I've taken all the screws off the back, so, and I've already pre-popped this, but basically I just needed to take this trim piece. So this chart plotter is a different size than the original one that was there, the old E120 I think it was called. So we actually have this special sort of adapter plate that sits in behind it, so that these widescreen ones that are less tall fit in there. And then this is actually an add-on piece that you that comes part of the kit to cover up the extra backing plate that's there. So it's quite a little good piece of kit. So anyways, that's that, and these screws should be undone, so I should be able to just pull the chart plotter straight out now. So I'll just kind of push at it from behind. Power cable. Okay, so there we go. And there's our unit. So just for reference, this is the Raymarine E125, so it's a 12-inch screen, and it's touch, which is quite nice. This thing's meant to be waterproof. It gets absolutely saturated with waves, and you know, God knows when you're washing the boat. So this is quite strange. It's definitely corrosion of some sort. It's not broken touch glass or anything, because we never ever push on it that hard. To operate this thing, you only just have to touch it like you would your mobile phone. So it's definitely nothing like that. So I'm really interested to know why this is happening. So anybody out there, if you've had a similar problem to what we're having here, please flick us an email, put some comments in the video, let us know, because for a 10-month-old unit, that's quite disappointing. So Raymarine, if you're watching, hit us back, mate. We 10 months, not great. Well guys, just thought I'd give you an update on where we're at with our chart plotter issues. So if you recall, I took the chart plotter out of the boat because we have this corrosion you can see developing. Well, I think it's corrosion. I don't know if it's water ingress or what it is, but as you can see, there's deterioration developing underneath the touchscreen, and those areas of the touchscreen are actually non-responsive, and it's getting worse. So we first noticed it when we were crossing the Atlantic, and it's been getting progressively worse as we've been going. And obviously it's a concern. We had actually bought the unit from a retailer in Malaysia, and I've been speaking to Ray Marine the last couple of days. So we've been talking to the Ray Marine office in the UK, and they were actually able to track the history of this chart plotter. So I was under the impression when I bought the chart plotter that it was new old stock from this retailer, and it turns out that this unit was actually sold in 2015 to somebody. It was then refurbished in 2015, so that doesn't bode well, I guess, to start. I'm sure chart plotters can be refurbished for a number of reasons, but bit surprising to hear that it had to be refurbished inside the first year of its use. And so it actually turns out to be a refurbished used unit that I bought. So obviously I was a bit naive when I was buying the chart plotter in the beginning, not knowing anything about chart plotters and, you know, the sort of the pitfalls to look out for. And I guess the deal ended up just being too good to be true. So it turns out we have a refurbished used unit, and unfortunately there's just nothing Ray Marine can do in terms of a warranty. They did say they could change the screen, but that was going to be ridiculous money. I think something upwards of nearly €1,000 once it was all done, which is just crazy money. And ultimately that doesn't mean that it's going to not happen again. So obviously, you know, for me there's a greater issue at stake. The deterioration in the screen is obviously occurring because of some failure in the way the unit is sealed, or I don't know. The chart plotter does still work. It functions fine. There is nothing wrong with the way it works, other than the fact that we have that deterioration in those sections of the screen, and that those particular areas are not responsive to touch. Fortunately, they're not actually in spots that we use. Occasionally there is a menu that might drop down over that larger section, but we do have the hybrid model, so we have the rotary knob and push button. So still not great, but so we need to make the decision what we're going to do. Ray Marine was kind enough to sort of offer us a bit of a discount if we did want to buy a new unit. But at this point, I mean, you know, you're talking thousands to buy a new unit, and that's just something that's not in the budget right now. I think what we're going to have to do is we're just going to have to endure with the unit we have, and just hope it doesn't get too bad, and that maybe if we reach a point where financially we can afford to change the unit out, then we will. So at this point, since the unit is not under warranty, and by undoing these screws and breaking these seals, I am not actually voiding any warranty. We're going to take a look inside this chart plotter. Now I'm going to be very, very careful. I don't actually know much about these, but I want to see if there maybe is, just on the off chance, something we can do about these areas. You know, maybe it's just a bit of moisture trapped between the glass. I have no idea. So we're going to open it up and take a look. All right guys, let's get started. We're going to start removing all of these screws that you see around the outside. So first off, I can tell right away that these screws are not on very tight at all, which might explain why we've got moisture entering. So I started taking off all the screws around the backing plate. I would say more than half of them, not tight, but not really loose, but not as tight as I expected them to be. And immediately it was obvious that there's salt moisture getting in, because the screws actually have a ton of salt buildup on them, all the way down to the bottom of the screw. And then the other issue we have is that whoever was into the chart plotter prior to me owning it has actually stripped the heads of 3 of these screws. and I can't get them off. So out of 24 screws, there's 3 that are holding me back. So I'm not really sure what to do. I'm not sure whether to drill them out or just put all the other screws back in. Unfortunately, I can't open the Chartplotter as a result. So there are some risks of drilling those screws out. I could damage the seals between the 2 pieces that are clamped together. That is certainly a risk. And then other issues which could result is I might actually damage the plastic frame if I slip with the drill or something like that. So the other thing I've noticed on this Chartplotter, which is really disappointing, as I said, this thing was immaculate when we bought it. It looked brand new. So you can see this black paint is actually flaking off. You can hear it. See, there's more. And that's 6 months of use. I mean, and there's massive salt buildup on all of this, obviously, because it's exposed metal now. You know, even if this unit was used, you know, on the previous vessel, as it certainly indicates it was, I mean, this Chartplotter is 3 years old. Like, this product should not be deteriorating like this. You know, that is not great. So I'm gonna go chat. I'm actually gonna go chat to Nat's dad. He's actually an electrical engineer, and he loves taking apart this kind of stuff. So I'm gonna have a chat to him and see what he suggests to do about those 3 screws. I really want to get in here, especially now that I see that there's salty moisture past the screw heads holding these together. Even if at the very least it means I get a chance to clean inside the plotter if there's any others, you know, salty buildup inside there. So it doesn't mean we're actually going to solve any problems, but yeah, let's go chat to Nat's dad and see what he has to say. Spoken to Carlos, we did manage to get a couple more of the screws undone, but there's still one remaining. I think what I'm going to do, I'll give it a clean and then get it painted after I put the screws on. So, and I don't know, just hope it doesn't get any worse.
If you are new to our channel, consider subscribing so you can join the adventure each week aboard Zephyr.